Thank you very much. Good morning to you all, and Minister in particular. Thank you for having distinguished speakers and audience having invited us to this event. Working in the European Union institutions, European Commission, it's always very important to us to know what's going on in the reality. Let's say the reality check. So the interventions of the speakers have been extremely interesting for us. I would not like, I would give you the European perspective, but I would not like to start these words without mentioning the illegal invasion of Ukraine by Russia, because is creating huge economic, social, and suffering in the whole world. And we are seeing energy bills that we have never seen. And it's true that in the short term, our households will have to find new energy sources. We will have to increase our consumption of gas in the short term. Some member states will have to use some more coal than anticipated, but the security of supply is not going to be done to the detriment to the climate ambition that the European Union has set as its own policy. I would like this to be clear. It is clear that fossil fuels and the extraction of fossil fuels is not the future. So these are a number of short-term measures that needed to be taken. As you know, the energy mix is a totally national competence. Cannot be otherwise. So, but overall, we are all agreeing that this cannot be done to the detriment of our climate ambition. Because in the Mediterranean, where you are all there, I'm coming from Spain, in my Mediterranean, here in Northern Europe, we are suffering extreme weather events. And the more we postpone our energy transition and the climate transition, the more expensive and the more painful it will be. You know that, and it doesn't happen, by the way, only in the Mediterranean. It happens also in Northern Europe. It happens in the rest of the world. So nobody is spared from that one. So it's a problem of everyone in the world. You know that just before, at the end of 2019, the European Commission adopted the European Green Deal, is still our growth strategy. And this Green Deal has become even more pertinent following the two crises that we have undergone very quickly after that one, the COVID crisis and the current energy crisis that we offer. So it's a strategy which, as you know, will bring us to energy, to climate neutrality, net zero emissions by 2050. Will continue the path that the European Union has shown feasible, which is decoupling economic growth from emissions. You know that since 1990 until now, the European Union economy has grown by a little bit more than 60%, and the emissions have been reduced by 25%. This is not enough, but it is also a proof that one can do climate policy together with the economic growth policy. And the third, let us say, important pillar of this strategy is to leave no one behind, because either we are all, as Executive Vice President Timmermans always says, either the transition is just or there will just be no transition. So this is a very important dimension of our policy. You know that to get to 2050 climate neutrality, I'm very glad to hear that many of you are really actors contributing to this path. We have an important rendezvous clause in 2030, whereby we should diminish the emissions by 55%. And these two targets are set in law, in the climate law. This is an important progress for the European Union, that having this clause set in law, obliges all of us to go along that path. You know that in this transformation, it is to say that everyone has to contribute, All economic sectors have to contribute. So this package, so-called Fit for 55, is seeing the light because the Commission made a proposal in July last year, and we are in this moment in very intense discussions with the European Parliament and the Council, where the 27 member states are represented. And we have already, before leaving to COP, we have already reached an agreement on how and how much are we going to reduce our emissions in transport, building, and waste sectors. That's important, and there are targets for each of the member states. We have also agreed that internal combustion engines will be out of the cannot be sold in the union after 2035. And we have also agreed on legislation that will make our better use of our fields and our forests so that they really continue and increase being carbon sink, which we need if we want to be carbon neutral in climate neutral in 2050, because we know that in 2050 there will still some emissions, which we can at least to compensate with all the removals. So as previous speakers have been saying, the public authorities have to make sure that all this happens with the necessary frame conditions. So we have the regulatory pillar, but we have also an investment pillar, precisely to accelerate the necessary investments that are needed. There's the investment for this transformation, because this transformation is hard and expensive, but not doing the transformation is even harder and even more expensive. Concerning the energy crisis, if I have still a few minutes, the energy crisis, you know that we launched the so-called Repower EU action plan, and it has, let us say, two components. One is in the very short term to cut the reliance of gas imported from Russia, gas and oil and coal, and in the coming years to accelerate the transformation of our energy system and becoming and cutting our reliance on imported fossil fuels. We cannot first, without relying on fossil fuels will not lead us to carbon neutrality, and second, we cannot replace one dependency by another one. So this crisis is hard for everyone, needless to say that, but it's also given an impetus to reinforce our targets, for example, in energy efficiency and in the use of renewables. The target now to renewables will be 45%, and the energy efficient target will be 13%. It's difficult. There are difficult discussions in the Council and the Parliament, but I'm confident that will be there.
Clara, thank you very much indeed.